Hey, welcome to Coaching with Tally. Money is one of the biggest things Americans worry about, more than jobs, more than family, more than health combined. And this year especially has given us no shortage of things to worry about. Everyone experiences worry to some degree, but consistent worrying can have a really significant negative impact on your health, your mental health, your physical health, and on your life. So we're going to talk today about how excessive worrying impacts us, and I'm going to give you a practical way that you can stop worrying and step into more peaceful action. My name is Tally, and I am a life and personal development coach, and I work with leaders to create lives of overflowing impact in the world that are centered in a place of joy. I'm all about getting you leaders aligned to who it is you most truly are, get you firing on all cylinders, and get you living a life that you love living, that is in overflow, impacting the world in a beautiful, positive way. And today we are in a series all about increasing abundance in your life. And we can't really hit abundance and how to create it in your life without touching on worry and the power of worry and the negative impact that it has to steer you away from abundance. So today, let's start with talking about what worry is. Let me define it for you. Worry is giving way to anxiety or unease, and allowing your mind to dwell on difficulty or troubles. And here's the thing, 85% of the things that we worry about never actually happen, according to research, and that's conducted by Robert LaHaye, I think is his name, PhD. So let me give you a quote by Winston Churchill that I think is really, really powerful. So he says, when we look back on all these worries, I remember the story of an old man who on his deathbed said that he had a lot of trouble in his life, most of which never happened. And how true is that? And I feel like we all could be that story where we get to the end of our life and oh man, I've had so much challenge, so much struggle, so much trouble in my life. And most of it happens in our head. Most of it happens in our head. A lot of it says 85% of the things that we worry about never even happen. And I found this true for me, where I started, after a little while, keying into, when something would come up and I'd be like, I got to get this situation figured out, and I'd get to, maybe it would take days to resolve or something like that, or a week or weeks. I get to the end of it and it got resolved and it got handled and, I was ready to move on. And I would stop and kind of look back at all of the time that I spent worrying about that thing not working out. All the time I just started to look at the toll that it was taking on my life. Physically, it was exhausting. It's exhausting. Worry is exhausting. It's very fatiguing because you're spending all of this energy and mental focus on something, trying to solve a problem that may or may not even come into play. Most of the time, I have found that things just, they get handled. They resolve themselves. I figure out what needs to be done. I do those things. I got hit recently. Somebody just ran into my car. I was like, first. And I was like, okay, you know what? I've been hit before. Even if I have to deal with going to a chiropractor, even if I have to deal with going and getting my car fixed, whatever it is that needs to get handled, it's kind of a pain, but been here before. It's gotten handled. We'll just take it and move on. It's just less. It's not worth all of the stress and the worry and the things that we can create that make it far worse than it actually ends up being. So looking back at all the things that we have, all the struggles that we've had that actually never even happened. And that has been true because we play out these scenarios if it goes this way, or what if this happens? We play out all of these scenarios and usually it ends up getting resolved and we get the grace that we need for the moment. God provides us the people that we need to be able to solve the solutions, whatever it is. It's it always ends up working out. It all always ends up working out. And so the time that I have spent focusing on and stressing about, it's too much. So I've seen a lot of wasted heartache in my life. So let me tell you a few of the things that stress will create for you when you spend time worrying. It lowers your immune system. It increases your chances of high blood pressure, heart attack, and stroke. It disrupts your sleep, which we all know the effects of not having good sleep. That affects a lot of things, including weight gain, all kinds of things that we don't want. It can create headaches, difficulty concentrating, Like chemically, when you're in a place of worrying, it's actually hard for your frontal lobe to function. So difficulty concentrating, difficulty making decisions. It can lead to nausea or muscle tension, depends on how you carry stress in your body. We all carry stress in our body. So maybe affects your digestive system, or maybe like for me, I carry it like in my muscles, or for some people, nauseous, headaches, whatever. It's like affects us physically. It leads to exhaustion. I mentioned that for me. I know I've spent way more of my energy focusing on potential problems that I could have been living in the moment, enjoying. So I still have a long way to go in this. It's definitely a work in progress, but it helps a lot when you don't spend all of your time worrying. It can lead to irritability. I know I'm really close to the screen right now. I'm having some technical difficulties. So irritability, elevated levels of stress hormone, cortisol, and that does all kinds of things that are negative in your body when you operate in that all the time. Difficulty making decisions. The other thing is it can actually lead to a habitual state of, like, when you are in this stress place all the time, you train yourself to be in it. And so you'll actually create it in your life because you're just so used to living, in all of this adrenaline rush and that kind of thing. So it becomes almost addictive. So starting to be able to steer yourself out of worry into peace, into the present moment, is really helpful. By worrying and focusing on what you don't want, you actually create more of it. You always create more of what you are looking to. So I don't know if you've ever been trained in any horseback riding, if you've ever had horseback riding, but my son took horseback riding for a long time. And one of the things that they taught him is that when you have a horse that's trained, and our brain is trained really well, so it's a lot like a horse, they said when you want your horse to go in a direction, just simply look in that direction. And it causes just like the slightest little bit of turn. Your horse can feel where it is you want him to go. When you look in the direction of where you want your horse to go, and the horse will follow. It's fascinating. And our brains are so much that way. Even if you're consciously saying, this is what I don't want, this is what I don't want, but that's what you're focusing on and that's what you're leaning toward, your brain creates scenarios that steer you into that direction. You end up with the thing that you don't want. It's fascinating. It's super frustrating, but it is the way that it works. Watched it over and over again. You have something called a reticular activating system. It's a part of your brain. It's an almond shape in the back of your brain, and it is responsible for filtering what comes in and out of your sphere of focus. Because if our brain let everything in, we would be completely overwhelmed and overstimulated all the time. There's so much stimulus around us all the time. So your RAS, your reticular activating system, is responsible for getting clear on what's important to you and filtering everything into your awareness that has to do with that thing. So if you're spending a lot of your time worrying, you are training your reticular activating system to bring into focus, to bring to your attention all of those potential risks that you're hyper focused on, and it heightens them even more, and it steers you into that place even more. It's like it's a really bad cycle, and then that reinforces where you're like, see, I was right about this. See, this is what happened. It's like a real negative spiral down. So one of the things that you can do is intentionally, actively train your brain into what you want it to steer into. And when you focus on those things, then it brings into your awareness, into your sphere of what you're keyed into, things that will steer you into what it is you want. So I was just working with a client this morning on something I call vision declarations. It's one of the steps in the model that I've created, where we look at every area of life. We're looking at career and calling for her today. And we're just talking about, what is it that you want in this area? What do you want to create? And I have several questions that I walk my clients through, where they get really clear about what they want. They get really clear about the why they want it. What's it going to give them if they have this thing? Actually, I had 2 sessions today that were specifically on career and calling and around vision, and getting very clear about what it is that you want to create in your life. And there's something really powerful when you start thinking about what you want. You're then steering into that direction. So if you're not focused on the worry and the negative, but you're like, I want to go over here, and you start getting really clear picture of what you want that to look like, and you start talking about it, and you're like, how could I make this all work? And you find win-wins. One of the sessions was all about finding a really brilliant win-win. Actually, it was like triple win scenario for what she could create that would include everything that she wants. It's amazing when we get in this place where we're like, what do I want? What opens up? What possibilities start to connect? What opportunities there are? How you can create. You just get into this whole different realm that worrying cannot take you into. When you're worried, you're just in this like, I'm dreading this, having this conversation with so-and-so, or I'm dreading having whatever, the possibilities that might happen. Dreading if I lose this, or I can't protect whatever. It's like all steering you into something that you don't want. So vision declarations, when we create them, they are powerful. They resonate as like, yes, they are present tense. So we say them, even if they aren't happening yet, we say them as if they're happening right now. And they're positive. They're saying what you do want, not what you don't want. So we never want to say like, in my life, in my abundance and finances, I'll never have a month where I miss, like, you don't say the negative. You say what it is you do want. I will always have more than enough to give to charity, to save, to invest, and to play. Whatever it is that, that you want to have in your abundance and finances, you say what you do want. So just training your brain, just understanding that you have this reticular activating system in the back of your brain and learning how to train it. I talked yesterday about how our brains are so much like a pet. It's just training. You just have to train them what it is that you want, what the expectations are, and just consistently bring them back, bring them back, bring them back. So one of the things that you can do is start to train your reticular activating system to steer you into what you do want. And so every time you catch yourself worrying, because worry is just a natural thing. We are primed for like assessing risk and keeping, like, your brain is primarily responsible for keeping you safe. And so when there is real risk, like, you want to be able to have some level of being keyed into risks and being able to respond appropriately. But the problem is we just take that and we run with it. We get totally carried away, and all of a sudden we find ourselves in a place we don't want to be. So if you can train that reticular activating system to what you do want through thinking about vision, through thinking about what you could create, thinking about what you do want, it's amazing all of the things that it will begin to make you aware of. And it'll feel like, oh my gosh, so many synchronicity is one of the terms that Julia Cameron talks about in her book, The Artist's Way. She's like, power of synchronicity. You just start seeing things everywhere. When you start tuning in to what it is you want, to what it is you're made for, to what it is that you want to create, you'll start noticing all around you opportunities and connections and things to read. You'll start noticing like the something on the front of a magazine or a book on it, or something as you scroll Facebook, a challenge that you want to take. It's just like stuff starts showing up when you get clear about what you want to create. Your mind's like, hey, here's something for you. Here's something for you. Here's something for you. Oh, this is important to you. I remember this is something that you want. And it'll start, your awareness will just, there are things all around you all the time, but your awareness will be heightened to leaning toward those things and drawing them toward yourself. Jim Carrey wrote himself a $10 million check when he was super poor, had no money, wanted to get into acting, and he was eating, beans in a can in his car with a plastic fork. He wrote himself a $10 million check, and it said in the memo line, for acting services rendered, and he put a date on it. I think it was 2 years out. Put a date on it. It was like, I'm going to make $10 million in 2 years for acting services rendered. And he carried this check around with him in his wallet everywhere. It got, tattered, and he would take it out and look at it and like, this is what I'm creating. That's what I'm creating. That's what I'm creating. He had a tangible thing that he was really emotionally connected to. He knew why he wanted to create it. He knew what he wanted to create. It was specific, and he would look at it regularly. Well, right before the date on that check came about, he got a check from the company for $10 million for acting services rendered for Dumb and Dumber. It was his first big break, and he got $10 million for that. It's just like, it's so cool. I love the idea that when you get clear about what you want and you just keep focusing on that, you steer yourself right into the very thing you're declaring, you're decreeing that you are really clear that you want. So it's just powerful. It's a powerful tool. Visualization, we talked about a couple days ago. Vision declarations is kind of what we're steering on today. So sit down and write what it is that you want, what it would take to get there. What's the why? What's going to give you if you get that thing? Get really clear about what that is, and then see if you can put together in 1 to 3 sentences a vision declaration. This is part of the work that I do with my private clients. It's part of a course that I lead called Catalyst. If it's something you're interested in having somebody walk you through, please reach out to me. I'll let you know when the next one is. We're going to have another one coming up sometime soon because there's some demand for it. So we'll put something together and do a Catalyst course coming up sometime soon where we look at all 8 areas of life. We get really clear about what you want, create the vision around that, look at what it's going to take to get you there, create vision declarations. It's powerful. It's a powerful experience. If it's something that you want, please reach out to me. Just message me and let me know it's something that you would like more information on. I'll get that to you. But today, if you just want to do this exercise yourself, write out what you want, why you want it, and put together 3 to 5 sentences that are present tense, powerful, and positive that will steer you into what you want to create in terms of abundance and finance in your life. Have fun with that. I hope this is supportive for you. And if you haven't heard it yet today, you are a gift to the world in a way that only you can bring. So keep being you, keep leaning into what you're most truly made for. Keep overflowing that gift to the world. You are loved. Have a beautiful day.